Hello everyone, it's me, Carl from Seafoam Gaming, back to finally give you guys my worst games of 2018 list in the middle of February. At least I'm not the only one who's done this. It's been a bit of a busy college hell recently, so I've been a bit behind on getting this out and getting the script done. But I think I managed to get something okay. It's a bit shorter maybe than some of the other countdowns I make. Mainly I go on about the first one more than the others, but more to the point, countdown is what I figured would be good for you guys. So let's just jump in and see what my top 10 worst games of 2018 were. And I should also note before we get into these that all these games that I reviewed, for the most part, most of them were basically review copies I got from the publishers of the respective game. I basically mentioned that ahead of time for legal reasons and for the fact that you may wonder why I got some games I clearly didn't like them. It's because I asked for them to give them, or they were given to me, and I figured I'd give them a look. Some games I had that way were very good, some of them are even on the best of list. Some games were bad and they're on this list. And some games I had hopes for and I didn't like in the end. Of course, there's some games that I did buy on my own accord or did check out but I still didn't like anyway. So you'll see those on the list as well. Until the end of the video, or whenever, I'll jump into number 10. Oh, I'm back here already. Well, yeah, number 10 is something I feel is more better for me to talk about on camera, and that's the Nintendo Switch Online service as a whole. Lastly, for the worst of 2017 list, I put the Nintendo Switch eShop and the whole user interface on my list for the worst things of 2017. And yeah, that's basically accurate because even like a while later, the eShop hasn't been fixed. They added some more space for the games. There's so many games coming out each week that's hard to keep track of them all. And even then, it's like flooded. By next week, they'll be off the main page, and you can only get viewed if the game's on sale. So it's a very hard battle for any developer to get their game noticed, or even have people know it exists on the store at all. That hasn't been fixed. But we're not talking about the UI being crap again, because I already went over that last time. Now we're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch Online service, and the reason it's on here is because, well, I'll go into it. But yeah, this thing was supposed to be out in 2017, and it still wasn't out by the early part of 2018. But it was going to be out in spring. And then they delayed it until September, because why not? They wanted to add cloud saving, which was a thing that should have been there from day one. And everyone was excited, because, we could back up our saves and not worry about our Switch breaking. And then close to September, we learned that the Switch cloud backups won't work for every game, though it's most of the games, thankfully. It's only like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and Splatoon 2 that are the outliers. But yeah, that's okay. But then we get to literally the only thing worth buying the service for outside of being able to do online gaming, and that's the Nintendo Switch NES app. That just leaves the NES app itself. And unfortunately, that aspect of the online service is what led to this whole service taking the 10th slot on the list. Right now, you pretty much have all the Nintendo greats, along with a couple of third-party gems like Twinbee, Super Dodgeball, and Ninja Gaiden. But besides those gems, NES Online's filled with a bunch of boring filler. The good thing about the app is that the emulation's on par with the NES Classic, which means it's far better to the Wii U's dark emulation. But besides looking crisp and offering online support for a few of the games that would actually benefit from it, this app is just filled with questionable issues. First up, the launch lineup. The NES Classic had a good lineup with 30 games available from the get-go, while here we get 20. Except only like 3 of these 20 games are even worth playing because most of them are black box filler games or awful NES ports like Double Dragon or Ghosts and Goblins. No Super C, no Double Dragon 2, no Life Force, no Stinger. There are a bunch of basic games that weren't even engaging score chases or co-op adventures were put on as launch titles. Several months later, the lineup's slightly better since we got a bunch of quality games since launch, but there's still the occasional dud that sneaks in whenever the monthly games are brought over, such as Solomon Key, NES Open, but we're still lacking a bunch of third-party greats, and the release pacing is painfully slow, with only 3 games a month at most, when it should honestly be around 4 or 6. To make this even more painful, a data mine confirmed that Super Nintendo games are on the way, with a far superior launch lineup from the looks of it, but they were just away from the app shortly before I record this, so who knows when they'll come out. Thus, due to the NES app being underwhelming despite the $20 yearly price point, this whole service gets the 10th spot on my list. Alright, I'm just gonna make this quick. Senwan Kagura Reflections isn't even a game. It's not even a good app to goof around with. It's not even a good tech demo. All you do is this weird massage for this one girl that you can dress up however you like, if that is what you care about, before she starts cosplaying as stranger and stranger things as you go deep into the Shadow Realm. Considering how the developer mentioned the fact that he wanted this to be a good show-off of HD Wumbo for questionable reasons, it's also disappointing that I found HD Wumbo Reflections to not even be that good. It feels wimpy and doesn't even look well as a tech demo compared to some other Switch games on the market. Don't even get me started on the DLC for this game basically just being the entire game all over again, but with another character, along with some random costumes you can buy. That means this $10 experience isn't even complete unless you buy it again several more times. Thus, this game gets the 9th spot on the list. A simplistic looking platform I checked out in hopes of enjoying a new hidden gem, Save the Ninja Clan is number 8 on the list solely due to how boring and poorly made it is. This platformer has an interesting gimmick where you can switch between ninjas with different abilities to take on platforming challenges, but level design is dull and uninspired, and some odd control crooks led to this being a game I got bored with really quickly. I'll give some props to the odd secret exits though. This could easily get me mauled by European soccer fans, but I don't care. I really didn't like Football Manager Touch 2018. I haven't played any sim games before this in my life, with the exception of Romance the Three Kingdoms 4, though that was more of a strategy game, but I was willing to give this a shot, since strategic stuff is something me and my friend Paul enjoy messing around with, especially Paul, and I was curious of how this version of the game was considered to be more to the point and easy to learn than the full-fledged Football Manager games. Yet somehow, by some sort of disaster, this game is horribly unenjoyable, not only due to how complex it is, but due to how much of a buggy, clunky mess this port is. Dear God, for a mobile game port that's entirely menu-based, something is really messed up when the menus that the entire game consists of lag. Combine that with how there's not much direction for newcomers like myself and how much faster the game plays on other systems, along with it being just easier to control overall. Starting off with this version of Football Manager 2018 Touch was a really bad idea, and I think even for fans of the series, you would be much better off buying versions of this on other platforms. Avoid this one. Next up is a simplistic platformer for the Switch known as Alertec or Alterec or whatever you call this. This looked like a fun platformer for a few bucks, so I figured it'd be fine to check it out and get a review copy for the game in order to give it a shot, and see this would be another hidden eShop gem. After all, simplistic platformers may be common, but a well-made one could be fun to enjoy. Unfortunately, Alterec is not well made. In fact, it feels so roughly made that might as well be held together by duct tape. It tries so hard to be Thomas Was Alone 2018 that it ends up forgetting what made that game fun to play to begin with. Good level design. Sometimes the level will be quick and easy, while other times they'll be absurdly long and will throw a bunch of cheap obstacles at you. It's a horrible mess and one I can't recommend for the budget price, giving Alertec the 6th spot on my list. Oh my god, where to begin? So, okay, Striker's Edge on PS4 isn't a bad game in terms of the concept or core gameplay, but this game is 5th on the list solely due to how bad this game was at launch, along with the lack of any significant updates since then. Striker's Edge is basically a dodgeball game with spears where the main goal is to hit the opponent several times until they die. You have online mode, a single player arcade mode, a local versus mode, And that's it. I'm dead serious, that's it. There was not even a single player train mode or versus com mode to practice for online matches, at least not at launch. You either do the whole arcade mode to practice by yourself, or beat up a friend in real life or a nobody that takes the 2-player slot. The game was abandoned mere months after launch, which means this $15 multiplayer focused game has barely enough content or activities to be worth more than a few dollars at most. This game's a perfect example as to why the notion of rushing the game out early and finishing it later with free updates is a terrible idea, even if the updates are free, because it can be abandoned in a heartbeat or just never live up to what could have been if more time was spent on the initial release. Jak and Jill DX for PS4 and Switch is number 4 on the list. To be fair, this one's more functional and has a better purpose compared to some of the earlier games on the list, but this one is number 4 simply because of how boring and generic it can be. An auto one of sorts, this Game Boy inspired platformer does little besides offer a generic black and white color scheme and fails to engage. For a Game Boy inspired game, I don't even see much of a resemblance to the old handheld console outside of a generic coat of black and white paint, when they could have easily gone a lot further and made it super authentic, more nostalgic, more, well, respectable to the Game Boy era, but instead just feels like a lazy paint job that was made in a few weeks. And even then, that probably would have saved this game from not being boring. It only took about a half hour before I had enough of the game, and even though it's cheap, I didn't care enough to keep going. We are reaching the top 3 at this rate, and this is where we get to really bad games, as in the games in this list that aren't boring or miss potential, but games I really don't want you to ever touch in your entire life, eating out of curiosity. This Switch eShop game is none other than Deep Ones, a ZX Spectrum-inspired Metroidvania with some of the clunkiest controls I had ever dealt with in my entire life. At first I had hopes for this, since retro-inspired games and Metroidvanias are my favorite types of games if done right, but Deep Ones isn't even fun to play, ZX Spectrum influences or not. Heck, it barely has anything to do with the Spectrum outside of some colors used, and the music's all weird and techno, and the game's more akin to a vector graphic tile than something from the ZX. It doesn't even look like a ZX game when you look at what they actually are supposed to look like. There was a demo for this one in the eShop, but I don't even think you should torment yourself by playing that. Avoid this one. Taking the silver prize for the worst game of 2018, Jurassic Pinball for the Nintendo Switch. The Switch has a bunch of fantastic pinball games, and this one was pretty cheap, so I figured I'd reach out for review purposes and see if it'd be fun to check out. I was dead wrong. The physics are all over the place, the table's generic as hell, and despite being so inexpensive, this is easily the worst pinball game I've ever played. And wanna know what makes this more insulting? This game was clearly made using the Pinball Asset Table creator, and now they released several low-budget reskins of this one awful game over the course of 2018. So not only is this a very bad pinball game, but it's a very lazy asset flip that led to a wave of equally awful sequels that are also flips of this one.
And yep, just like lastly, I'm on camera for the honorable mentions. And, well, believe it or not, I don't have any contrarian or controversial takes for this time. Well, maybe one, but to be honest, a lot of the internet got more mad about it than I ever was. And that's for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. The reason it's not on my worst of 2018 list is because I didn't buy it. I actually skipped the Pokemon game because I didn't feel it was of good quality, felt like a cash grab just to pad out the lineup. And it feels like a Pokemon game that everyone's gonna forget exists come next year or come whenever a new Kanto remake comes out that's not dumbed down. I also just played through Leaf Green in 2017, so I don't even feel like going through Kanto again. So I didn't pick it up. But it's not on the worst list because I haven't played it outside the demo, and the only thing you can really complain about the demo is that, well, the frame rate is kind of iffy and the control schemes are stupid in docked mode. Like, why can't I use my damn Pro Controller, or why can't I even, well, use a two-handed combination? Everything's like done with one button, or two buttons, and it's really weird.
It's a bit different, but that's what they're going for, and I do like Pokemon Go, so the integration is something I hope they put in future games. But yeah, that's basically the honorable mentions that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, because I know some people who know me would wonder why I didn't talk about it at all, and well, I haven't played it. And even from what I've gathered from friends, I don't think it's the next OS. I don't think I'll hate it with a passion if I do play it when it's used, because it's just a game that doesn't need to exist, but like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, it doesn't really ruin something that was done good before, because Pokemon Legend was Shadow to begin with. You can't really mess it up that much. But yeah, that's it for the honorable mentions.
Here it is. Number 1. The worst game of 2018, in my honest opinion, is none other than Nickelodeon Kart Racers. I'm not even gonna bother to play audio for this game, so I can spare you the torment of this game's god-awful soundtrack. Licensed games are always trash in my opinion, I get that. But this one I was willing to cover out of sheer curiosity because it had an oddball selection of characters. You have some Rugrats including Reptar, SpongeBob, Hey Arnold, and then the 4 random TMNT characters from that one Nick show no one really cares about. There's the entire roster, folks, and don't even expect any funny lines or anything representing the franchises at all, because as cool as it would be to have Reptar in this game and have him roar and be super cool and funny, none of the characters speak or use voice acting in any way, shape, or form. And this game uses generic, free public domain stock sound effects up the wazoo. This is nothing but a shameless, low effort, cash grab with an IP slapped on it, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this game's the worst Nick game than Attack the Toy Bots, which was the game that made me outright avoid third-party games for several years of my life due to how awful I felt it was. At least that one had voice acting, at least that one had characters, at least that one had some items and stages based on their games. This one just doesn't. It barely counts as a Nickelodeon game, and it really does feel like something that was just rushed out for the holiday season. Maybe cliche and kinda predictable, but this was easily the worst game of 2018, and this is the one that you should stay far away from no matter the cost or even if it lands in your hand for free.
And there you go, guys. My worst games of 2018 list is now complete, and now that we've dealt with Nickelodeon Kart Racers and I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders, I want to know what you thought the worst games of 2018 were. I know people said this game called Acme was bad, and it was like bad Twitch posts like Wolf 2 and Ark Survival Evolved and all that stuff, but I just put down what I played and what I reviewed for the most part, and yeah, those were I thought were really bad games. But next time on the Home Memories, we will look at the 10 best games I played in the year, with some obscure gems I hope to finally bring some attention to. So I hope you look forward to that, and I'll get out in March maybe, depending on when my schedule frees up. And then we'll move on to some more Eternal Memories games before I go back to Mystery Dungeon Retrospective sometime this spring. So until next time, take care everyone, and bye!